Long ago, in a land torn apart by war, there lived a man who refused to raise a weapon, and somehow that made him one of the most dangerous men of his age. His name was Mozi, and before this video ends, you will understand exactly why a king once trembled, not at his army, but at his silence. Mozi lived during China's Warring States period, a time when lords burned villages to expand their borders and called it honor. Into that chaos, he offered 5 ideas so simple that children could understand them, and so demanding that almost no one could live by them. Universal love, the refusal to attack, the wisdom of hiding your wisdom, the quiet power of putting others first, and the stillness that no insult could shatter. 5 teachings. 1 life spent proving that gentleness is not weakness. It is the last form of strength that violence can never take from you. Ask yourself honestly, are you at peace with the people around you right now? The misunderstanding with a coworker that never quite healed. The silence that grew between you and someone in your family. The friend who used to feel close and now feels like a stranger standing at a distance. If any of that lives quietly in your chest, stay with Mozi's story. He faced these same wounds, only magnified across an entire broken civilization, and what he discovered still holds the answer. The first teaching, love without walls. You love your own family. Of course you do. It is the most natural thing in the world. But Mozi asked something almost unbearable of the people around him. Love the families of strangers exactly the same way. He had watched his world tear itself apart and asked why. Why does the fighting never end? And the answer he found was this. Every war begins with a love that draws a line. One ruler defends only his own nation and attacks every other. One man honors only his own parents and turns his back on everyone else's. This selective love, this quiet drawing of lines between mine and not mine, is the seed from which all hatred grows. So Mozi taught the opposite. Love without walls. He called it Jian-I, universal, undivided love. And he did not merely preach it. His students lived it, sharing their food with people they had never met, risking their own lives to march into other nations and stop wars that were not theirs to stop. There's a story told about him, that once the kingdom of Song stood on the edge of destruction, about to be crushed by the much larger kingdom of Chu. Mozi walked there alone. No army, no weapon, only his voice. And when he stood before the enemy general, he was not defending his own people, his own blood, his own home. He was defending strangers, people who owed him nothing, and to whom he owed nothing in return, except the simple fact that they were suffering. Love, he insisted, needs no passport and no bloodline. If a child is crying, it does not matter whose child it is. You gather that child into your arms. If an old man has fallen in the street, you do not ask what country he comes from before you offer your hand. When a famine struck one town, it is said his followers arrived with grain before anyone even asked who lived there. There was no family bond pulling them there. There was only a simple, unbearable fact. People were suffering, and that was reason enough to move. Because here is what Mozi understood centuries before modern psychology gave it a name. When you love someone without condition, without expecting anything folded quietly into that love, something shifts in them. They begin, almost without noticing, to hold you carefully too. Trust does not have to be built brick by brick over years. Sometimes it is simply given, and once given honestly, it is returned. To love your family is a beautiful thing. No one is asking you to love them less. But Mozi's question was always this: What happens if you take that same tenderness and let it walk just one step further, past the fence you built around my people? He believed that in that single step outward, the whole world around you would grow quietly warmer. And that was only the first lesson. The second one is where Mozi's philosophy stopped being beautiful in theory and became almost impossible in practice. The second teaching: the strength that refuses to fight. Mozi grew up in the state of Lu, raised on the ordinary, natural love a child learns from its parents. But a question kept surfacing in him, one that would not let him rest. Is loving only your own family actually right, if it means the rest of the world can starve, weep, and fall, and you simply look away because it isn't yours to carry? He decided the answer was no. Everyone breathes under the same sky. If that is true, then love cannot be something you ration out by bloodline. He called this conviction not an emotion, but a resolve, something closer to a vow than a feeling. And he believed that whoever could hold that resolve was the only kind of person capable of truly calming a broken world. From this came his second teaching: Fei Gong, the rejection of unnecessary conflict. Do not fight. Do not seize. Do not chase the feeling of victory. Think for a moment about the last argument you won. You said the right thing. You made your point. You proved you were correct. Did it actually feel good? Or did something in your chest stay tight and unresolved long after the argument ended? In Mozi's era, kings justified their wars with a single word: justice. I raise my army to defend what is right, they would say. But Mozi refused to accept that logic, because if justice alone were reason enough to go to war, then everyone, every single ruler on every side, could claim it, and the fighting would never, ever stop. That is not what true justice looks like. True justice, he insisted, protects human life and reduces suffering. Nothing else. And so, when the kingdom of Chu prepared once again to invade Song, Mozi did not send a message. He walked to the gates of Chu himself, carrying no weapon, and for 10 days he argued, not with anger, but with strategy and reason, against the general who held the fate of an entire kingdom in his hands. 10 days of words. At the end of it, the king of Chu withdrew his army. This was Mozi's non-aggression made real. Conflict is not proof of strength. Restraint, swallowing your anger, choosing to yield, that is the true face of strength. The next time you feel a conflict rising with a colleague, a partner, a friend, remember this: listening in silence carries more weight than firing back a clever reply. Protecting the relationship matters more than winning the exchange. And the trust you preserve by stepping back one pace is worth infinitely more than anything you could win by knocking someone down. Non-aggression is the strength that never has to raise its fist, and it can bring a quiet, steady power into your own life too. We tend to justify our conflicts in the name of being right. But being right was never Mozi's concern. Justice to him was never spoken with a blade in hand. It was not about forcing someone to their knees. It was about finding a way to keep living together. When Mozi finally spoke to the king of Chu, it wasn't really an argument at all. It was something closer to this. The nation you intend to destroy has families too. It has people who will weep. What you're about to take from them is exactly what I'm trying to protect. Those words stopped a war. Not weapons, not force. Words and the conviction behind them. Somewhere around you right now, small wars may be quietly breaking out. At work, inside your family, between you and someone you love. Each one born from the simple desire to be the one who's right. When you feel that pull, remember Fei Gong. To yield is not to lose. When you honor the other person's position, conflict tends to dissolve on its own, the way frost disappears once the sun rises. Refusing to fight is, quietly, the strongest and gentlest choice a person can make. But if the first two lessons were about how Mozi treated others, the third lesson is stranger, because it's about something he deliberately refused to show anyone at all. The third teaching: the wisdom of hiding. Your wisdom. Do not display your brilliance. That is what Mozi taught, and it may be the hardest lesson of all. You have felt the urge before to show someone exactly how much you know, how clever your idea is, how right your judgment was. But cleverness paraded in public does not always earn you what you expect. Sometimes it earns you envy. Sometimes it earns you enemies you never intended to make. This was as true on the battlefield as it is at a dinner table. Mozi understood military strategy intimately, the mechanics of siege engines, the architecture of a city's defenses, the calculations of attack and retreat. And yet he almost never spoke of it, knowing something and choosing silence, being capable and choosing restraint. That, he believed, was the very shield that protected people from wars they never needed to fight. Once, a lord asked Mozi's counsel on troop placement. He did not tell him everything. Why? Because whatever you fully reveal can be taken from you, used against you, and discarded the moment it's no longer convenient. Appearing a little foolish makes people relax their guard around you and lets them come closer without suspicion. The truly wise, Mozi believed, are the ones who never look wise at all. Try it yourself sometime. Let yourself appear as though you know nothing. Watch how the people around you soften. If your goal is to avoid conflict, silence is the sharpest tool you own. Once someone believes you're gentle and unthreatening, hostility simply has nowhere left to land. Mozi taught that concealing brilliance, rather than displaying it, is the quiet secret behind every relationship built to last. As far as he had observed throughout history, there was one trait shared by almost everyone who eventually fell. They'd stood out too much, flaunting their intelligence, boasting their strength, speaking too loudly, too often, too proudly. And even when they were correct, they gathered enemies simply by being visible. So Mozi chose the opposite path on purpose. Even when people pressed him for his full knowledge, he withheld it, letting them do their own thinking instead. Once, it said, a king demanded that Mozi teach him how to build a devastating weapon. Mozi possessed that knowledge. He refused to hand it over because he understood exactly how many lives it would one day take on some future battlefield. Show your strength, and it will be taken from you. Show off your wisdom, and it will be envied. So Mozi chose, instead, to appear quiet and compliant. Playing the fool is not the same as humiliating yourself. It is a subtle art, a way of keeping conflict at a distance. Even when you are capable, there are moments when it serves you better to remain unseen. Your intelligence belongs to you. It does not need to be spent proving itself to everyone who crosses your path. Protect more than you display. Think more than you speak. That, Mozi taught, is the foundation upon which lasting relationships are built. He had already shown us how to love without limits and how to refuse the fight altogether. Now, he had shown us how to disappear a little on purpose. But his fourth teaching turns the lens back outward again, toward the people standing right in front of you. The fourth teaching, the quiet power of putting others first. Everyone, understandably, wants something good for themselves. And yet Mozi dared to say something different. Think first of someone else's peace of mind. In his era, extravagance was treated as a symbol of power. The wealthy built enormous tombs and spent staggering fortunes on funerals. Watching this, Mozi asked a piercing question. Instead of spending fortunes on the dead, shouldn't we be saving the living? From this came his teaching of Jieyong and Jizang, frugality in life, restraint in death. Take the money you would pour into a funeral, he said, and give it instead as rice and cloth to those who are suffering right now. This was the root of his belief in living for others. One of his students, it said, once walked from village to village handing out cloth to the sick, cooking porridge for families who had lost everything to disaster. He wanted no grand house, no honor, no recognition for it. It was enough simply to watch a suffering face soften. Mozi believed relationships worked exactly the same way. Before you speak, ask yourself first, will these words bring the other person peace? Not whether you can win the argument with pure logic, but whether you can offer instead a single sentence that says, I care about you. That one sentence becomes the seed from which trust eventually grows. When you offer peace to someone else's heart, it circles back to you in time. That, Mozi believed, is simply how this world works. Once, a student confessed to him, Master, I want to help those in need, but I myself am poor. And Mozi answered, even without money, even without possessions, simply listening to someone is itself a form of giving. Living for others was never, to him, about grand gestures. It was the quiet accumulation of small, ordinary acts of care, repeated day after day. You, too, have probably chosen your words before by asking, quietly, what's in this for me? And somehow, the other person always seems to sense it. Words spoken from self-interest ring cold, no matter how correct they are. But a sentence spoken beyond self-interest, something as simple as, I just need you to be well, carries a kind of warmth that can hold a person up. Mozi wanted, above all, to become someone capable of speaking words like that, and he spent his life trying to pass that capacity on to his students. If you carry a heart oriented toward others, sooner or later, the people around you begin returning something to you as well. Not objects, but trust, respect, connection. Living for others, Mozi taught, is the quietest and most powerful force capable of moving another human being. And yet, none of this is possible, he warned, if your own mind is in turmoil. A clouded mind cannot even recognize what is right, let alone offer it to someone else. Which brings us to his final teaching, the one he considered the very root of everything that came before it. The fifth teaching, the silence. Stronger than any argument, Mozi debated many people across his life. Some raised their voices, some let their anger explode in front of him, and not one of them, he noticed, ever managed to persuade anyone through fury alone. No matter how much he was provoked, Mozi answered quietly. He understood something simple but rarely practiced. When the mind is not clear, no words, however true, can actually land in someone else's heart. There's a story of 10 days he spent debating a general of Chu. The general insulted him, shouted at him, tried to intimidate him into silence. But Mozi never answered anger with anger. He met it instead with stillness and reason. And at the very end, the general said something unexpected. Your words carry a sharper edge than any blade. Not because Mozi shouted louder, because he never let his fury drown his own voice. Calm, Mozi understood, cuts deeper than violence ever could, and reaches places a raised voice never will. The next time something makes your blood rise, try this. Instead of firing back in that same instant, take one single breath, and simply pause before you speak. Mozi believed that the most essential thing in any relationship is the space, the pause, the gap you leave before responding. Whoever can hold that space is the one who avoids needless conflict and builds real trust instead. Steady your mind first. A calm heart, he taught, carries far more weight than words thrown out in disorder. That, to him, was the true measure of wisdom. Once, a man came at Mozi in a rage, red-faced, shouting insults directly at him. Mozi simply watched him, quietly, and finally said, "Your silence would carry further than your anger ever will. Anger's only a passing feeling, but a single word spoken in its grip can break something that took years to build. This is why I've always taught, still your heart first. Only once you've done that, does the space open up to actually consider the person in front of you." There's another story of a young student of his on the edge of a fight with a townsman. Mozi told him simply, "Do not answer him now. Wait 3 days. If you still feel this way, then speak." 3 days later, the young man returned and said quietly, "The anger's gone. Only a kind of sadness remains." And Mozi answered, "That sadness, that is your true feeling. To become calm is not to erase your emotions. It is the path that leads you to the feeling underneath them. Learn to step back and observe your own heart from a slight distance. That, more than anything else, is the skill that protects a relationship instead of breaking it." Wisdom, Mozi believed, was never carried in clever words. It lived quietly, instead, in the stillness of the heart. 5 teachings carried across more than 2,000 years from a man who owned no army and sought no throne. Love without walls, strength that refuses to fight, wisdom quiet enough to stay hidden, a heart that gives before it takes, and a stillness no insult can ever break through. None of these are complicated ideas. What makes them difficult is that they ask something of us every single day. In the small moment when you choose whether to answer anger with anger or with silence, whether to love only your own or to let that love walk one step further, past the fence you built long ago. Mozi never asked to be remembered. He asked only to be practiced. And so the real question is not whether you found his story beautiful. It is simpler than that. Which one of these 5, starting today, will you carry with you?